Hi guys, my name is Philip Eviston. I'm a college student interested in student startups in the greater Boston area. So I started the Collegepreneur podcast as a way to have a platform for college students and their startups to share their stories, how they were able to scale their startups to where they are today, and their goals for the future. Today I spoke with the Morning Investor, specifically the founder Fynn and Chief Operating Officer Arun, about the history of the Morning Investor, how they were able to get the Morning Investor to where they are today, and what they're looking for in the future with the Morning Investor. With that, we're learning how the Morning Investor is simplifying finance for students that want to learn more about finance but may not know where to start. Enjoy the episode. All right, Fynn and Arun, welcome to Collegepreneur. Thanks for being here today.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
How are you both doing today?
Excellent.
Pretty busy, but good.
Okay, solid. So before we get into anything else, could you guys give me the elevator pitch for the Morning Investor?
Yeah, so the Morning Investor is a platform or entity, I guess I should say, that delivers financial educational content in bite-sized pieces. So we have a bunch of different channels that we distribute our content through. So video format, audio format, and also different types of video format, so short form and long form, and then, which is on the newer side, written format. So we have a newsletter that all of our authors contribute to, and that gets sent out every single Monday. So we actually had one come out this morning. If you go to themorninginvestor.com, you can sign up to read the newsletter every Monday, and get sent out by Arun over here, who manages all the content. But he can tell you more about that.
That's actually a great segue. Before we get into anything else besides the elevator pitch, could you guys both explain your roles at the Morning Investor and kind of your background outside of the Morning Investor as well?
Yeah, so I started the Morning Investor 2 years ago just because I saw a need for financial literacy in the world, specifically in the U.S. school system. It was definitely a role that I saw that needed, or a gap in the market that I saw needed filling. And so I founded that. So I am CEO, founder, titles don't really mean much, but that's kind of what I do. So I'm kind of working on the long-term vision and just making sure that our trajectory is where it needs to be and kind of fine-tuning that. And then I was lucky enough to set up a table at a college event and run into some great people, one of those being Arun. So he joined the team, and he can tell you more about what he does.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I joined the team in March, and since then we've launched the newsletter. We've kind of launched this new version of the podcast in which we talk to different finance professionals, and we've really recruited a lot of authors to write content for us to teach other students about what they're doing, how they've landed different roles in finance, and we've kind of concentrated the focus from overall financial education to financial education for students, and really honing in on that vision and just really teaching these students about how to land different careers in finance, learning about different topics in finance, keeping up with what's happening in finance in a very easily digestible way.
And what is your position, Arun, technically?
Technically, I'm the Chief Operating Officer,
Okay,
and really
awesome.
Work together on recruiting all these people and managing our whole content system.
And do you have a background in finance, any interest? You kind of explain on yours, but Arun, interest in finance prior to the Morning Investor, kind of what were you up to?
Yeah, so actually back in high school, I started reselling, made a few $1,000s, and then started trading. My dad helped me open up a stock account, got into finance, and then majored in finance, and am finishing up my major here at Bentley. So I've been in finance ever since.
Awesome. Fynn, anything you wanted to add to kind of your background in finance?
Yeah, no, real quick, just the role specifically, Arun plays a really pivotal part in balancing out what I do. So I kind of work more on the bigger picture things, and he kind of is the person that gets it done and is more on day-to-day operations. So the team has grown tremendously, and I think Arun will speak more to that later, but I think, we're currently at 26 people?
26 people, yeah.
Roughly, that work with us. Some on a weekly basis, some on a daily basis. So it really ranges, and just the expansion of the team has been explosive, I would say. And my background specifically, I've worked in private equity for a little bit, and then I've also done some work in corporate finance as well. So definitely very interested in finance. I have a lot of people in my professional network that have been on Wall Street and have definitely motivated me and pushed me into a like finance career, and I've definitely kind of looked up to those people specifically. It's kind of been very motivational, kind of being introduced to that at a young age, and it's also another reason why I wanted to start the Morning Investor, to kind of give people that maybe don't have those opportunities at a young age to kind of be exposed to the world of finance and kind of like the opportunity that it holds, right? And I feel like if people get, introduced to it at a young age, they can be proactive about it, learn about it, and kind of, get a running start when they hit the workforce.
It's a really good vision for the Morning Investor and for yourself, and that's awesome. Moving on from that, how did the Morning Investor come to fruition? Like, what was the start of the Morning Investor?
Yeah, so, it's kind of funny because Arun kind of was working on something similar in high school from what I hear, but the Morning Investor had a couple different names. The origin stories come out of my high school where I was running the Wall Street Club. So it was a club that I started my senior year. This is before COVID. And I noticed that everyone seemed to be very, very interested in finance. No one really seemed to know where to start, but there was this general understanding that finance is interesting. It's cool. People make a lot of money in the field, and the Wolf of Wall Street. That's kind of like the three-sentence summary of finance. So I had a lot of people ask me a lot of questions because I got a custodial account, like Arun mentioned, like he did too. I think that's a common story among a lot of enthusiastic finance people or students, so they start trading pretty young. So I was introduced to that by my neighbor who worked on Wall Street, and I had him come in as a guest speaker during this club that I ran, and we grew the club to 40 people. I think the largest club at the school, my school had 1,600 students. The largest club before that was 35. We grew the club to 40 members within a week or two. So the club was the largest club at my school within a matter of days. And so then I thought about that. I reflected on that back in college when I was my freshman year, and I realized I was like, okay, cool. So this has real pull. People are genuinely drawn to this. And again, Arun can speak on his experience in high school as well. I think we both kind of saw the need and the desire to get involved in that space, obviously with various levels of intent. But people talk a big game. But anywho, So that's kind of where that all started. And it started with like a Discord community. Just because that's kind of what was popular at the time, especially during COVID. People were joining these communities and exchanging trading ideas. Yeah. But I pivoted away from that pretty quickly because I realized that this Discord community specifically got a bad rep, and that's nothing against Discord. It's just specifically finance Discord communities I think have a bad reputation. I didn't really want to associate what I was doing with that. So it wasn't I wasn't trying to sell a get rich quick scheme. It was purely educational, and at the moment we don't even make a profit, right? So the revenue model there is no revenue model, right? So we're looking to potentially run ads in the future and have sponsored posts, but at the moment everything that we're doing is free, right? So I definitely wanted to distance myself from this. Hey, there's a Lamborghini in my garage. It's fun to drive in the Hollywood Hills, type of hook. And again, nothing against those types of people and those, advertisements, but it's just not something that I wanted to kind of associate with at the time.
Right. And moving on from that, what really was the next step? So you exit the Discord community. Where did you go?
So I decided to build a website. This was just to kind of create a hub and a point where I could post content on social media, but it would all link back to one main location, right? To capture, it was at this point just user information, emails and stuff like that. So I could get an email list going, and that was kind of the vision for that. And I was introduced to a couple newsletters back then, and I always wanted to launch a newsletter, but at the time the team wasn't large enough to kind of do that, and I was doing a lot of the stuff myself. I also had a couple people join the team and also leave pretty quickly because the workload is no joke, just because it's a massive balancing effort. So I built the website, effectively grinded it out that summer, spent a lot of time like writing. I mean, I think, there were close to 1 million words written. And I was spending weeks, probably like 18 hours a day, just writing articles, looking at what was like trending for topics and stuff like that, and effectively just translating that into proper English that wasn't like dry. Websites like Investopedia are great, and I think that they're still the market leader in what they do, but they're very outdated in the sense that their information is effectively just digitalized textbooks. So it's not really written for students. It's more written just like, taking what's on a piece of paper and posting it, which works. It's effective, but it's not engaging. And so this is something that I think Arun and I stress a lot. Also with like the rest of the team, I think the whole engagement is really important, right? To create that engagement that we had in the club, right? There's a reason that people came to those meetings. It's because they were engaged, right? There's a reason people come to class. There's a reason people find things interesting is because they're engaged. And like, how do you foster engagement like that? So we've been talking about different formats, and I spoke about like that we have different like channels that we distribute like information through, but video specifically is something that we've been working on with the team, and Arun can talk more about like the written content. So we operate with the help of partners, right? So we have different student authors, professional authors that come in and they kind of write research papers. And Arun, I mean, you can speak more to that. Like, you've been pivotal in finding those people. How do you go about doing that? How do people reach out?
Yeah, so when we're looking for people, when I was in 9th grade and 10th grade, I would write articles on LinkedIn about different topics in finance, really for the sake of expanding my personal brand, and really just building that kind of long-term vision of my career, my understanding of finance, and sharing it with others. So we look for people who have that same kind of passion and reach out to them and help them expand their audience, help them reach out to different people. We have people of all different types of levels who engage with our brand, so it's great reach for them. And we build the team with people who have expertise, even as students, in different areas, such as landing investment banking internships, or they're really interested in what's going on in the world economy. So we really focus on that and reach out to them. And our team has people of all different kind of niches, all different kind of backgrounds and interests in finance. And weekly or bi-weekly, they're writing content about these different topics and teaching students who are younger to them, and really everyone, about what they're interested in.
Yeah, that's really impressive to have such a large team and like manage so many people. It's pretty impressive, I would say. It's a lot. I wanted to kind of touch back on a previous point we were talking about with when you were first starting the website, Fynn.
Yeah.
What was your audience roughly, like number-wise, at that point in time? Yeah.
Pretty minimal. So I think in total, at that moment in time, we were engaging with around 100 people a month, I would say, starting off. And Arun and I kind of just looked at like our recap. We just did a little the Morning Investor wrap for 2023. And I think in terms of our engagement, I think we're now interacting with, 250,000 people a month.
That's really impressive.
Right. So scaling it from 100 people to 250,000 has been a lot of work. And we definitely have a ton of more work to do. There's so many more opportunities to, improve our content. So I think, we were at 100. And we're actually currently working on redeveloping our website too. So you'll be seeing that coming out in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Just a better user experience, faster loading times, and just a cleaner user interface. So, the team's been working really hard on that. And,
So getting to 250,000 audience, what would you attribute that success to? Which steps did you take to get to that point?
Meeting Arun and Anshuman, who have been pivotal in creating digital content.
Yeah. But I guess specific things that really have helped a lot in that is building this team, as Fynn did, and creating this assembly line. So one of us will write content, one of us will record the voice, and the other will edit the videos and put them together. So we're really efficient in the process at this point and are able to cover topics as soon as they come out. So really just getting that news fast and with our own creative style on it.
How much content would you say you're producing a week right now with the Morning Investor?
I'd say on average, on a month basis, we produce about one piece of content per day. So we really try to get something out there every day, whether it's advice for internships or if it's what's happening in the world of finance or just kind of other topics of finance, like covering fundamental topics.
Well, I saw today, as of filming, that there was a Stanley post that, Fynn, that you wrote. Did you want to speak about that? It was a pretty interesting stat in there. About
so, I mean, I think everyone can kind of, if you're in college or if you are out and about, you've noticed the increase in these colorful cups that are not Yeti cups. They look a little different. They have a handle on them, and they're everywhere. They're large, and it's some people's entire personality now to have a Stanley Cup. So I was looking into that, and I found that their revenue had 10x over the last 4 years. And so I looked more into it specifically, and they had a pretty massive change in leadership 4 years ago. And I'm assuming that a lot of the growth is attributed to that. And I also dived more into the reason why they actually gained so much popularity, and it was through blogs, which incidentally is also kind of the business model behind what we're doing, right? Is creating written content that ranks well, that people engage with on a monthly basis. So I found a lot of similarities between, the whole blogging world and what we're doing specifically, because we are also investing pretty heavily into the whole written content side of things. But the whole Stanley Cup case study is absolutely fascinating. I mean, what the team at Stanley has done is very impressive. Creating like consumer brands like that is not something that's easy. And there's also definitely a little bit of luck involved as well, just because I know that there's so many people that are working on like brands like that. But no, their success has been absolutely phenomenal. And actually, the president and CEO of the company worked as the chief marketing officer at Crocs before that. So he definitely has a track record of turning companies around and kind of making them popular. So no, it was fascinating when I learned more about that, and I wanted to share it with our readers and listeners.
Yeah. Speaking of other viral articles that the Morning Investors had and like a lot of success with, you had an article a little while ago on Sky Partners, Kim Kardashian's.
Yeah, it's actually Arun wrote that.
Yeah, I can touch a little bit more about that. So Sky Partners acquired Truff, and this was their first acquisition. Truff is a truffle hot sauce-based company. They started as just an Instagram page. They would post memes about hot sauce, and then once they reached 200K followers, they realized they can monetize it. So they launched this hot sauce company, which has really become a high-end hot sauce, has very clear branding, and Kim Kardashian's firm, Sky Partners, along with Jay Salmons, they made their first acquisition and acquired them. So we released a story about them, and Jay Salmons engaged with the post as along with a bunch of others in the consumer industry and consumer private equity and other top execs at consumer firms. So that really also kind of shows part of the mission, which is to give this kind of engagement to the authors. Their goal is really to boost their personal brand, and this gives them the opportunity to do so. So that's really
cool accomplishment. Yeah, that's awesome. Any other posts that you guys feel like the More Investors had a lot of success with, or like a trend per se, and like content that hits better with your audience right now?
Yeah, I'd say one big thing that hits better is, this is kind of an overall theme of taking big topics and digesting it, making it digestible. And one thing that we did recently that goes along with this is showing an overview of 2023 private equity, venture capital, family offices, how they've been doing, creating graphs, and really making it as digestible as possible. Yeah. Since as a student in finance, it's hard to kind of know all the different paths to go down, and this really helps people understand these different industries, which is really hard to do without talking to people or being in the industry. So showing an overview of what happened in 2023 and what people are expecting to happen in 2024 through graphics, through written content, and really just a combination of all that. Because at the end of the day, nowadays, and always, people are a lot more visual learners. Yeah. So just really honing in on that.
People love graphs on LinkedIn. Love.
Funny. So I feel like we haven't talked too much about the newsletter. How long has that been around? Success with that?
It's been slow, but the success compounds. So Arun, can speak more onto that. But like we launched it back in November, I think it was.
Yeah, so we've just had 18 weeks. Our 18th edition was sent out today. And in terms of the audience, it's been growing. But one thing that we really like and that kind of gives us confirmation is that 60% of the people open it and read it, click on links and engage with the authors, LinkedIn's, and different links and reach out to them and ask them questions and reach out to us and ask us questions. So we've been receiving positive feedback. We're continuing to look to grow the newsletter as big as possible, since that's kind of where the information goes out first and as directly as possible. But yeah, it's been going great otherwise.
Yeah, to put that into like perspective, I think from my understanding, newsletters, like top performing newsletters that have a much bigger audience, but top performing newsletters seem to have an open rate of 40%. So we are quite a bit above that.
Yeah.
And that's like the upper echelon of newsletters too. Like the 40% is like, that's a very, very good open rate. So we're quite happy with the 60%. And obviously I think that's probably going to drop once we continue to grow. It's just inevitable. But I think we're pretty happy with, where things are at right now.
Awesome. So, Fynn, you had your first podcast episode not too long ago. What was that experience like? Setting it up, whatnot, your guest? What are you seeing for the future with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I voiced to Arun and the rest of the team specifically that I wanted to try out a new content format. So I've noticed that like in recent months and like I think over the past year that like podcasts have been gaining popularity, specifically in like just the ways that you can reuse and like kind of, I don't want to say recycle, but like recycle content effectively and reformat it for different platforms. I thought that was very interesting that you could take a long format piece of content and like cut it up into shorts and distribute it on TikTok and like YouTube Shorts and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty neat. So I wanted to take a look into that and like try that out. So Arun and I started looking for people to talk to. And Arun found a managing partner at a VC firm in Boston, who I think since relocated to New York, or he's thinking about it. I'm not sure if he's done the move yet, but Miroslav, or Miro, he's a Bentley grad. And Arun found him and reached out.
Yeah, so he's a partner at Momenta, which is an industrial tech venture capital firm. He started off in strategy and finance, and really the interview and the podcast was kind of about his journey and giving advice back to students. So that's kind of the format of the podcast and the goal, which is to spend an hour, talk to these experts, get 10 to 20 actionable insights, some anecdotes about their story, about their journey, and give students an inspiration.
Like specifically what's unique about him is because, he broke into venture capital, which is, one of probably the hardest industries to break into for people studying finance. It's like the upper echelon of the financial industry. I think that like next to like quantitative hedge funds, who, by the way, don't hire anyone in finance. That's also something that I found out more recently. Finance majors aren't even listed as people that quote unquote qualify for the role, which I thought was funny. But yeah, he broke into venture capital, and the unique thing about him was one that, he went to Bentley University, which, is amazing. And the second thing is that he doesn't have an MBA. And something that I think Arun can also speak to is that everyone in venture capital expects you to currently be in business school or have an MBA, especially when you're looking for internships. And, he managed to do that without, going to business school. So it definitely was a very, unique story and definitely very motivational for, other people that are looking to, follow a similar career path. But
yeah, and just add one more thing, like his approach was very like direct in the sense that he has very specific impacts that he's created on a bunch of startups. So he used that. He was really kind of against the whole, if you look at job listings for at VC firms, they're all MBA interns, and he was and his advice was really like, have an impact on a startup, show that you can actually do something. That's what matters, rather than a title or even a degree or anything of that sort. So
I would agree with that 100%. Yeah, he brought up a lot of really like good points in that interview, Fynn. One that stood out to me that I recall was about how certain like hiring managers and whatnot, if you have over a 3.7 GPA in college, they don't think you can think anymore. If I'm not mistaken, that's what he said. That was such an interesting point that stood out to me.
I think I think people misunderstand what he meant by that specifically. It sounds pretty crazy, and I don't think that he thinks that those people aren't people that can't think, but people, if they optimize their academics, aren't focusing on exploring different options as much,
Right.
which isn't a bad thing. Like, obviously, striving academically, is always preferred, and there's people that do both. But like generally, I think that if you are a person that is obsessing over, decimal points on a GPA, like tenths of a decimal point, and rounding it up to something that's a little bit higher, that's not like the best use of your time, especially if you could be building something that could actually impact people, right? Like, from what I've heard from people that are much older, much smarter than I am, 10 years, 20 years after you graduate, no one cares what your GPA was. 30 years from down the road, people don't talk about what you got in college. They talk about what you did in business, the lives you impacted, what you built. How many companies have you exited? Like, how much money did you raise? Like, there's other ways to quantify success, and like I think a GPA is a good indicator of it. And I think that's kind of what he meant. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's kind of the way I interpreted it. That there's just other things you can do to, quantify success, and success varies on a person-to-person basis.
You had a lot of insightful takes, so thank you, Morning Investor, for providing that content. I mean, you guys are doing a lot of great things. Yeah. Is there any podcast guests lined up in the future? Where are you looking to take the podcast series in the future, Fynn?
Yeah, so I mean, we're actually probably going to have, Arun as a co-host in upcoming episodes for sure. I think that might happen. We're going to also, interview more Boston-based entrepreneurs. We have a couple student business owners and entrepreneurs that we're talking to at the moment. Other people in venture capital, private equity, and just people that have interesting stories about how they ended up in the career or place they're in right now. And people that, saw trends early. The whole idea with the Morning Investor, and the reason I came up with the name The Morning Investor, is to talk about the go-getters, the people that get up in the morning, like the 4 a.m. crew, the people that wake up before everyone else, the people that want to get involved early. It's like the Morning Investor. Yeah. As cliche as that sounds, but I mean, Arun, you can speak more about upcoming guests. I mean, we've talked to people who are valuation managers at different firms, and as Fynn said, really just people who are in either roles that students aspire to be in, whether that's being an entrepreneur or a valuation manager or just in the upper echelons of finance, right? People in these roles who have stories to tell and want to help out students.
Awesome. Is there any other content goals for 2024 aside from podcasts that the Morning Investor has, or continuing goals even?
I mean, you can talk about that, I think.
One big thing is our YouTube channel. So
yeah,
we want to. Well, YouTube is a great way to teach people things in a short format, while still keeping them engaged. It's not a 30-second TikTok video which they scroll through and forget about, but it's really something that they choose to click on, choose to watch, and can learn a lot from, and in a way that's very, very engaging, right? Especially in the area of finance, and especially people who are early in a major like finance may not take the time to search up online what is investment banking, how did this company start, I want to understand more about decentralized finance, all these different topics, and they may not, go on, search up different topics and scroll through articles, but really just condensing it, simplifying it, and delivering it in a way that's engageable, and YouTube is great.
Awesome. Anything outside of the YouTube mission?
I would say one big thing that we're looking to do is really grow our author team with people who are very dedicated, very consistent, and can really be passionate about giving advice to students who are in their freshman year and in high school. We recently had someone reach out from my older high school who wants to start a chapter of the Morning Investor in my city back home, and it's just really great to hear that people are even starting this at such a young age, at 16, 17, and really trying to spread this spread this goal as Fynn did when he was in high school.
It's the impact of the Morning Investor, you guys. You have a good thing going. So we've talked a lot about like successes of the Morning Investor. Any trials and tribulations, any difficulties along the way of the Morning Investor, areas where you knew you needed to pivot if you wanted to keep moving forward in a positive direction?
I think we're in the trials and tribulations. I don't think, I mean, we've had small wins. I don't think we're quite a success story yet. I think we're still kind of fine-tuning everything and just kind of getting feedback and data and kind of changing our directory based on that. And that's kind of like what I mentioned previously. That's kind of what I'm working on at the moment, specifically seeing like, okay, like where are we right now? Where do we need to be? And like making those adjustments. Specifically on like, I think expenditures, like I think as a business owner, you always have to be mindful about where money's going. And so I definitely think that was a learning curve, I could say. There's definitely some expenses that didn't need to happen or that were a little bit, excess. And that goes like, that was more towards like the earlier days of everything. Less so now. I think we've definitely like buckled down on like what we need to do. And I think everything's more clear, but definitely like 2 years ago when I first started it, there was a lot of expenses that were made that were questionable, at least, to say the least. Yes, it's just, those things just happen. I think as like a younger business owner, I think, everyone has to go through that and just make those mistakes and, fall down and get back up. But I don't know, Arun probably has some more interesting stories about trials and tribulations, about people not responding on LinkedIn. And,
If you will, Arun, please.
Yeah. So the reason why I also emphasized like dedicated earlier is, I know I've been guilty of this as a student. We want to say yes to every opportunity that comes our way, and that includes writing articles about whatever is the new thing in finance, right? And it's definitely something tough to stay consistent with. So I would say one of the hardest things is really making sure everyone is on the same track in terms of like new people joining to write articles about different topics. One other thing is we've really solved a lot of the trials and tribulations that came our way by finding people who have those skills and are on the same mission. So in the beginning, we were trying to figure out how to edit these videos. I started editing some videos. Fynn was editing some videos, and honestly, they weren't great. And then Anshuman came along, and he's a master in graphic design and in video editing, and he started making amazing videos, and he was making them faster than we were. So that really solved that problem. And then in terms of the website, it had everything, but it was slow, and there were some issues here and there, and it was tough really going through all those issues. So we had Ashish join, who's our CTO, and he's been working on fixing all of that. So really people are the core. Yeah.
So yeah, like Arun said, Anshuman and Ashish have been, like key components, cornerstone components in like what we're building, and like the website, like the content was there, but the whole infrastructure on the website was built on something that like I kind of just like whipped up. So I didn't really think too much about that when I built it. And I guess that was kind of again, another mistake that I made early on, that I didn't really plan for the future when it came to that. But we're, retroactively, rectifying that. The content's still there, and we're just kind of, changing the structure of the site visually a little bit as well to make, again, more user-friendly. But, yeah. I think that covers the trials and tribulations. But yeah, we're still in the trenches and kind of fighting for
in the trenches.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Well, a lot of exciting stuff ahead though with the Morning Investor.
Absolutely.
Definitely, yeah. Especially from what I've been seeing. The podcast series.
Appreciate it. It's only one so far, but we're looking to definitely ramp that up a little bit.
Everyone watching this needs to check out the Morning Investor podcast as well. And kind of moving into that, what do you want to let the audience know that's listening right now?
If you are young and interested in finance, get involved. Figure out what you want to do. If you don't know yet, that's okay. Talk to some people. If you don't follow the Morning Investor, follow the Morning Investor. Subscribe. Yeah, and if you are interested in writing content, you have a unique story, reach out to Arun or myself. We have an email on the website. You can reach us on LinkedIn as well. We're very, receptive there. And we're always looking to, talk to new people, have new people join the team, and kind of hear people's story specifically. And then also, if there's any feedback too, like we've had people reach out and tell us that, dude, your content format sucks. So, again, like feedback's always good as well. I don't know, Arun, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I would just say like one more thing, and this kind of dives into like the purpose of the Morning Investor is to create a community for finance students. When I was just going into my freshman year, hadn't started college yet, I was on a networking call with this guy who just landed an investment banking internship. He went to Bentley, and I was talking to him. I was like, "Oh, I'm interested." He's like, "Okay, so what is investment banking?" And I had no idea what to say. Right, going into finance. Okay, investment banking. That's the route to go. But really didn't know the different pathways. Was honestly lost. Right, and that's kind of the goal, to have a community of people who can help you out, of people you can talk to, and specifically for finance, since there's a lot of different paths and there's a lot to do. So.
That is a great way to wrap up the episode. So, like, where can people find The Morning Investor specifically? So it's themorninginvestor.com.
Yeah.
And then...
So we have the YouTube, The Morning Investor, just on YouTube. It's pretty much The Morning Investor on all handles, at The Morning Investor, except Twitter for some reason. Actually, I know why, because their character limit on the username is too small. So it's _M_investor on Twitter, but it's The Morning Investor on all other platforms. And yeah.
Awesome. Well,
find us there.
Thank you both for being on Collegepreneur today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Philip.
Yeah. Have a great rest of your day, guys.
Thank you.